He farmed. He served as the auditor for the Illinois Secretary of State, and he was an auctioneer for 80 years. He was one of the hardest working men I've ever known. He and I were married 68 years at the time of her passing in 2012. Together they raised a son, Jeff, built a family business, and shaped a community. Ray's legacy is not just titles he held, but the lives he touched. He was a mentor, a friend, and a man of his word. He loved Southern Illinois and served it every day of his life. We're all better for having known him. May God bless Ray Dorr, and may he bring comfort to his family and all his loved ones. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to revise and extend my remarks, if I may.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, and still I rise, a liberated Democrat, unbought, unbossed, unafraid, censured but not silenced. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to address the topic of racism infused in Texas politics. Racism infused into Texas politics. Mr. Speaker, I have in my hand a letter from the Justice Department. It is a letter that has as its reference unconstitutional race-based congressional districts, and then it cites the districts. Texas District 9, occupied by a person of color. Texas 18 was occupied by a person of color who is deceased, to be filled soon. 29, occupied by a person of color. 33, occupied by a person of color. Now, this letter goes on to infuse race into the conversation. Read the last line, last sentence in the last paragraph. It reads, if the state of Texas fails to rectify the racial gerrymandering of Texas 9, Texas 18, Texas 29, and Texas 33, the Attorney General reserves the right to seek legal action against the state, including without limitation under the 14th Amendment. So race has been infused into this letter. It is sent to the Honorable Greg Abbott, that's the governor of the state of Texas, and the Honorable Ken Paxton. Dear friends, at the end of the day, if they can fulfill what they proclaim in this letter, there will be more white representation in Congress from Texas and less black and Latino representation. This is nothing more than an attempt to silence many of the voices that are emanating from communities of color in the state of Texas. It is racist. Now, there in this country seems to be a problem with people saying racist. It's okay to say anti-Semitism, but don't say racism. Racism has not received the same amount of acclaim when it comes to dealing with racist issues that anti-Semitism has received when it comes to dealing with things that are anti-Semitic. Well, I'm not afraid. I'm going to speak truth to power and about power. And here is the truth. Under this president, Republicanism is eroding and devolving into racism. Under this president, who has declined to allow persons from countries of color to come into the country when he has opened the door to Anglos from South Africa. This president has found a way to circumvent what would ordinarily be a society that appreciates and respects people of all colors, and he's turning society against people of color. This letter, if they succeed with this, will be the equivalent of having a mid-decade redistricting without the empirical evidence necessary to do it with a sense of justice. They will do this, and in so doing, it's comparable to having the halftime at a basketball game, and one team decides, because they have the power to do so, to remove 2 players from the other team and let that team proceed with 3 players, and they'll now proceed with 5. Oh no, wait, you have to have 10 players on the floor. So what they'll do is they'll just take those 2 players and they'll add them to their team. So they'll play with 7 and the other team will play with 3. They are diminishing the amount of representation that people of color will have in the state of Texas. Republicanism is being equated to racism too often in this country, and that is not the case. Republicanism has always been about conservative policies, but now they're about racist policy. This president is injecting racism into presidential policy. It is unconstitutional. I'm going to fight it, but more than that, I'm going to tell the truth about it. And if I happen to be one of those who is extricated, who is removed, evicted, if I happen to be one of those, I will be bloodied but not unbowed. Nobody is going to silence me. You can come after me, but you won't stop me, you won't silence me. I refuse to allow republicanism in the form of racism to dictate the policies in the state of Texas without my voice being heard. And finally this. Friends, I have on my Texas tie. I'm proud to represent my state.
The gentleman's time's expired.
And I'm proud to say I
The
stand
gentleman's time's
against
expired.
republicanism as racism.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Bean, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a beam is a ray of light, a symbol of hope. And for more than 40 years, Beam in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, has been that light, delivering hope and help to Northeast Floridians in need. It started in 1985 by representatives of local churches who saw people needing a hand up. And so today, I rise the 40th anniversary of Beach's Emergency Assistance Ministry, BEAM, a lifeline for families facing hardship in eastern Duval County. Places like Mayport, Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach. From keeping the lights on to filling the pantry, supporting seniors and single parents, BEAM continues to show up with compassion and care. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know what you're thinking. 40 years old, and they don't look a day over 29. That is true. And what's also true is their volunteers and benefactors are everyday heroes, quietly providing critical services to thousands of neighbors each year. And as our community has grown and changed, BEAM has remained a constant source of light, guiding families through tough times with warmth, direction, and hope. Today we celebrate more than a milestone. We celebrate that ray of light that is never dimmed. May BEAM continue to shine, lighting the path forward for those who need it most for years to come. Bring it in closer a little bit right here. Mr. Speaker, today I rise with a heavy heart, but a grateful spirit to honor the life of my friend, Commissioner Carol Eugene Franklin, who passed away peacefully in Hilliard, Florida, at the young age of 76. Born in Boonville, Mississippi, Carol lived a life shaped by hard work, deep faith, and a quiet but profound dedication to others. He was a proud combat veteran who served in the U.S. Army's 9th Infantry Division during the Vietnam War. That same courage and resolve stayed with him throughout his life, whether it was in service to his country, in business, or in leadership with the Nassau County Ocean Highway and Port Authority. Carol was a man who showed up, not just when it was easy, but when it was needed. He believed in faith, integrity, and perseverance. He loved his family dearly. And for 42 years, he stood side by side with his beloved wife, Judy, raising their sons, Garrett and Greg,
and cherishing their granddaughter, Diana Dell. To his church and to his church family at First Baptist of Boulogne, his brothers and sisters, and his many friends, nieces, nephews, and neighbors who knew him, Carroll was the kind of man whose legacy is etched not in headlines, but in the lives he lifted. Mr. Speaker, we say goodbye to a veteran, a man of character, a family man, and my friend. It hurts because that's the impact that Carroll made on so many. May his memory continue to inspire us all and serve with heart, live with purpose, and love without hesitation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Ramirez, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life and legacy of Karen Lewis, a tenacious organizer, a teacher, and a truth teller. Long before she became known to many as the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, or CTU, Karen dedicated 20 years to serving Chicago students as a chemistry teacher, including at Illinois' third own Lane Tech College Prep High School. As the president of CTU, Karen built an intersectional solidarity movement rooted in love, injustice, and the radical belief that working class Black and brown children deserve fully funded public schools. In 2012, she courageously led her union in a successful and historic 7-day strike for a fair contract that captured the nation's attention and brought new life into Chicago's labor movement. Today, we invoke Karen, both her wisdom and her vision, to guide us as we stand opposed to all the forces of austerity, of division, of fear, and hate. May her memory continue to fuel our fight, and may she rest in peace and power. Thank you, Karen. Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the life and the legacy of Marion Stamps, a Chicago civil rights icon and tenant organizer. Marion moved to Chicago in 1963 at a time when public housing residents were denied the full measure of dignity that they deserved. But Marion organized. She co-founded the Chicago Housing Tenants Organization, and she took on the Chicago Housing Authority, demanding respect, safety, and a seat at the table for tenants in Cabrini Green and beyond. Marion built people power from the ground up, participating first and only successful national rent strike against HUD, exposing the corruption and holding Chicago city leadership accountable. Today, we invoke Marion, both her blueprint and her audacity to challenge those in power, to guide us as we challenge an administration that would deprive us of affordable housing and deepen housing inequality. May Marion's courage and her spirit, which lives in her daughters Carla, Tracy, Guana, Justice, and Commissioner Tara Stamps, guide us, organize tenants, challenge systems, and never ask permission to make our voice heard. Thank you, Marion. And Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the life and legacy of LGBTQ+ rights activist John Pennycuff, a proud gay man, a fearless organizer, and a tireless advocate for dignity and justice. John understood that queer liberation wasn't just about marriage or visibility. It was about housing. It was about healthcare and survival. And alongside his partner, Robert Castillo, John advocated to have gender identity added to the Chicago Human Rights Ordinance and Chicago Fair Housing Ordinance, increasing fair housing protections for LGBTQ+ people in Chicago. Today, his memory lives on in the John Pennycuff Apartments, an affordable housing community in Illinois' 3rd Congressional District that proudly honors the vision of inclusive, just neighborhoods. Today, in a moment where LGBTQ+ rights are under attack, we invoke John and his uncompromising vision of holistic justice. May his memory call us to act with compassion, with clarity, and without apology. Thank you, John. And Mr. Speaker, It is my honor to rise to honor the life and legacy of the one, the only, Reverend Dr. Calvin Morris, a civil rights giant, a scholar, a spiritual leader whose work helped shape the conscience of this nation. In 1967, at the request of Reverend Jesse Jackson, Dr. Morris became the national coordinator of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference's Operation Breadbasket, today known as Rainbow Push Coalition. He served through the assassinations of Dr. King and Fred Hampton, guiding the movement with courage, with conviction, and with faith. Dr. Morris also served for nearly 2 decades as the executive director of the faith-based social justice organization, Community Renewal Society, where I'm grateful that our paths got to cross. Today, in a moment when the civil rights gained, thanks to our elders, are under attack, we invoke Dr. Morris and his moral clarity, his prophetic witness, his fire for justice, and his habit for breaking out into song. May his memory inspire the moral courage we need in a time such as this to walk boldly in his footsteps. Dr. Morris, may you rest in power, and may we continue to be inspired by who you are and continue to be for so many of us. Thank you, Dr. Morris. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, for 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, the Democrats are outraged that the largest illegal mass migration in history that they unleashed on our country must now be followed by the largest repatriation in history. Now, they insist that they don't object to removing violent criminals, but that's a demonstrable lie. The whole point of the Democrat sanctuary laws is to protect criminal illegal aliens from being turned over to ICE for deportation. Instead, they release them back into our communities, where many have gone on to commit even more heinous crimes. Recently, when federal officers served a criminal warrant on a Southern California marijuana farm, activists staged a riot. Officers liberated 12 minors forced to work at this facility. 8 of them were among the 465,000 unaccompanied alien children that the Democrats placed with poorly or unvetted sponsors during Biden's administration. It appears the marijuana farm was employing scores of illegal aliens to undercut their competition in flagrant violation of U.S. labor and immigration laws. Now, let's start with some simple truths. If we don't force our immigration laws, we have no immigration laws. If we have no immigration laws, we have no border. And if we have no border, we have no country. And we've gotten a glimpse of what that means as foreign flags are waved by violent mobs, setting fires, ransacking businesses, and terrorizing motorists in our sanctuary cities. So what do our immigration laws actually say? They say clearly and unambiguously that any and every adult